Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this online classes. Today we are going to start new chapter, that is electromagnetic waves. That is 10th chapter, electromagnetic waves. So in the previous chapters, that is from the chapter electric fields, stationary charges, and after that we have moving charges and magnetic field, and in the last chapters nothing but the electromagnetic induction and also in the AC currents. Till now what we discussed is, suppose if you have a stationary charge, that is charge is at rest, so around this stationary charge there is an electric field. Now, suppose in moving charges and magnetic field, where we have seen that the charge is moving with a uniform velocity, nothing but charge is in motion. It means that there is a current, and this type of current we call it as steady current, means the current remains constant. So if the current is flowing in a conductor, so according to Ampere's circuit law, if there is a current flowing in a conductor, around this conductor there is a magnetic field. So this is nothing but the charge which is in motion, nothing but the steady currents gives rise to magnetic field. So this is moving charges. Now in the electromagnetic induction chapter, where we have seen the important law called the Faraday's law, where we said that the change in magnetic flux with the time induces an EMF. So the induced EMF in a coil is equals to the change in magnetic flux with the time. Suppose if you have a coil and if you are moving this magnet towards the coil, so the flux lines passing through this coil C1 is changing with the time. So if there is a change in flux, what the observation is that if this a coil is connected to a galvanometer, the galvanometer is showing deflection. It means that the flux passing through the coil, if it is changing with the time, so as we are moving, the more and more flux lines are passing through with increasing time. So because of the change in flux with the time, there is an induced EMF. It means that there will be, in this coil, the charges are there. So because of this induced EMF, all the charged particles are moving in one particular order, so giving rise to current in the coil. Because of that, the galvanometer is showing deflection. So we can say that the change in magnetic flux with the time induces an EMF, or we can say that it acts like a energy, voltage applied to a conductor. Why we have a voltage? Because of the change in magnetic flux. So if this is nothing but EMF, we can also call it as the voltage drop or the potential drop. So because of this EMF, we have the voltage. So we can write the electric field E as the relation between electric field and the potential as V by R. So now we can say that if this is voltage, I am writing it as the induced EMF. We said that EMF, voltage drop, potential, everything both are more or less the same. So because of the EMF, there is an electric field. So here this Faraday's law, we can write it as the change in magnetic flux with the time creates electric field. I can write the change in magnetic flux with the time. The change in magnetic flux with the time induces EMF. Now I am saying that the EMF is nothing but the potential drop, and because of the potential drop there is an electric field. So the change in magnetic flux with the time gives rise to electric field. Just we modified the Faraday's law, not in terms of induced EMF. We are writing that this change in flux creates electric field. So now the question is, in this chapter is, Maxwell argued, so we said that the change in magnetic flux with the time gives rise to electric field. What about the converse of the statement? It means the change in electric flux with the time, will it gives rise to magnetic field? That is the question. The change in electric flux with the time, will it gives rise to magnetic field? So this is the question to the Maxwell. So the change in magnetic flux with the time, it gives rise to electric field. Then the change in electric flux with the time, will it gives rise to magnetic field? So this is the question to Maxwell. So to answer this question, nothing but the change in electric flux with the time, will it gives rise to magnetic field? So we are going to answer to this question, right? So we have to say that the answer is yes. The change in electric flux with the time will gives rise to magnetic field. So earlier in the 7th chapter, the magnetic field is because of the steady current. Now we have to accept that the magnetic field can also be created by change in electric flux with the time. So the magnetic field can be generated by two ways, by flowing steady current through a conductor, or I can able to create magnetic field if there is a change in electric flux with the time. We can able to create magnetic field. This we are going to discuss now, right? So the Maxwell question is, will the change in electric flux with the time will create a magnetic field, right? So because why he has this question is, so he made one experiment where a capacitor is connected to an alternating voltage source. So nothing but we already done in a AC current chapter, if a AC voltage is connected to a capacitor. So here the current flowing through the capacitor or the current flowing through the conductor is also a function of time. The AC current is flowing in the circuit. So this is a capacitor where we have positive and negative charges accumulated on the plates of the capacitor. So here we said that the capacitor allows AC and stops DC. We said this in the last chapter. The capacitor allows AC current and stops DC. So here, why? Because the current is alternating current, because the voltage source is the alternating AC voltage source. It means that here the capacitor, once it is connected to AC voltage, the charging of capacitor takes place. Once the voltage is maximum, the charging of the capacitor plates was completed. Once the cycle is reversing, it means that the voltage is gradually decreasing. So now the capacitor starts discharging. So here we have alternate charging and discharging of capacitor takes place. So in the entire cycle, the current flows in the circuit. So in AC circuits, through the capacitor, the current flows. But if it is connected to a battery, the current flows momentarily. After that, the current is zero. But in case of AC circuits, the current flows because the capacitor's plates are charging and discharging. So continuously charge is flowing. There is a flow of charge with the time. So due to which there is a current that we discussed in the last chapter. So here, what the Maxwell observation is that in between the capacitor plates, there is no flow of charge. These are the stationary charges on the plates of the capacitor. So he observed that if a magnetic needle is kept in between the capacitor plates, the magnetic needle gets deflected. It means that between the plates there is a magnetic field. So why there is a magnetic field? So here between the plates is a free space. So there is no flow of current. If there is a flow of current, according to Ampere's circuit law, yes, there will be magnetic field. So here these charges are stationary and there is no flow of charge. Still the magnetic needle between the plates, it is showing some deflection. It means what is responsible for the magnetic field between the plates of a capacitor. So he want to answer to that question. So there is no charges which are flowing between the plates. So for this he conducted some observations, calculated some observations. So he took a circular cross section and which is at a distance, let us consider a point P which is at a distance r from the conducting wire, and he want to calculate what is the magnetic field at point P. So by applying the Ampere's circuit law, nothing but the closed line integral of B bar dot dl is equals to mu naught times the current flowing. Here the current is an alternating current. So here along the circumference the magnetic field is constant, so we can keep it outside, and the integration of the small line segment dl to the entire closed surface, which gives rise to 2 pi r, is equal to mu naught I of t. So the magnetic field at point P is mu naught I of t by 2 pi r. So this is the magnetic field he got. Now at the same point P, you want to calculate the magnetic field but using another closed surface. The shape of the closed surface is different. So he took a pot-shaped closed surface. So the bottom part was in between the parallel plate capacitor and the front part is outside the capacitor. And I of t is the current flowing in the conductor plate. So again he want to measure what is the magnetic field at point P. So here between the plates the charges are stationary, they are not flowing. So in that case between the plates there is no medium for the charges to flow. So we can say that the current in between the two plates is 0. So if the current is 0, the magnetic field at point P is 0. Similarly, he also performed the same experiment by considering one more closed surface which is in the form of a Tiffin box type. So the same thing. So we want to measure the magnetic field. So here between the plates there is no flow of charge, that is the current here is 0. If the current is 0, the magnetic field is 0. So at the same point using different closed surfaces, one way we got the magnetic field which is non-zero, and in other cases the magnetic field is 0. So this is a contradiction. Always the magnetic field should be the same at that point, but sometimes it is non-zero and it is 0. So why we have this contradiction? So what is missing in this? So here he observed that in the Biot-Savart's law, what we have is line integral of b bar dot dl is equals to mu naught I of t. So here there is some term missing, that he concluded that. So between the parallel plates nothing is flowing between the parallel plates, but we can see here that so as the plates are charging, there will be maximum amount of charge. So if the charge is more, there is a electric field between the plates, and this electric field is not constant. The electric field is also, because charge is a function of time, so the electric field is also a function of time. It means that the electric field is changing continuously with time. If the electric field is changing with the time, suppose if you consider one particular surface, then the flux, nothing but the magnetic field lines passing through that cross section, is also changing with the time. If the the capacitor is charged, maximum amount of charge is there, the electric field is maximum. If the capacitor is discharging, so electric field is changing. So here, because of the alternating current, the electric field is also a function of time. They are also sinusoidally varying with time. So in that case, the flux passing through a particular surface is not constant, it is changing with time. So this factor, the change in magnetic flux with the time, may be the responsible for the current, and that current is responsible for the magnetic field, and because of this the magnetic needle is showing deflection. So the change in flux, the electric field is there between the plates, and that electric field is not a constant. Electric field is a function of time. If the electric field is function of time, the electric flux is also a function of time. So this electric flux which is changing with the time, that is creating, that may be creating a current. Like what we said, the change in magnetic flux with the time creates electric field. The change in electric flux with the time may create a magnetic field. That we are going to show using the concept called displacement current that we are deriving. So here, as we all know that the electric field due to a parallel plate capacitor, E is equals to sigma by epsilon naught. E is equals to, here we will write, so E is equals to sigma by epsilon naught, or we can write E sigma by epsilon naught. Sigma is nothing but the surface charge density, nothing but charge per unit area by epsilon naught. So here Q by epsilon naught A is the electric field. And what is the electric flux? The electric flux is E into A. So we can write E into A as Q by epsilon naught. So now I am writing Q is equals to epsilon naught into electric flux. So let us consider differentiation with respect to time. So dq by dt, rate of flow of charge. What is rate of flow of charge? Nothing but the current. And on the other side it is epsilon naught into d phi e by dt. And this, the current is because of the change in electric flux with the time. The electric flux is changing with the time. That is responsible for this current, and that current we call it as displacement current. The current is called displacement current, and the Maxwell proved the existence of this current. So this is also called the displacement current or the Maxwell current. So what is that? So in between the plates, there is no medium, there is no flow of charges. So current between the plates, we have to assume it as 0. But there is one quantity called the electric flux changing with the time. Because of the change in electric flux with the time, there is a change in electric flux with the time. There is a current. That current we call it as displacement current. So because the charge is on the plates, the charge is continuously changing. Because of this, there is a change in flux with time. That is responsible for the current between the plates, and because of the current, there is a magnetic field. If there is a magnetic field, yes, the magnetic needle shows deflection. So this current we call it as displacement current. So in general, in this conductor, suppose if this is a conductor where we have conduction current, if we have a medium in which if the charges are flowing, that current we call it as conduction current. And if there is no medium, they are separated, the plates are separated, in between the plates there is no medium, still there is a current. That current we call it as displacement current. So the conduction current requires a medium, and it is because of the flow of charges, whereas this displacement current exists even in a even the material is not present. So we can say that sometimes we have conduction current and sometimes we have displacement current. So displacement current is generally in an insulating material or in a dielectric material, and this conduction current is in a good conductor. So the materials what we study, they are not 100% conductors, and they are not 100% insulator. So we have both the conduction current and as well as the displacement current. So observe here, outside the capacitor, the current, what we call it as the conduction current, and between the plates of a capacitor we have only displacement current. But we can have mix and match of the conduction current as well as the displacement current, because we don't have 100% conductor and 100% insulator. So we can have a mix of conductor and as well as the insulator. So we have conduction current as well as the displacement current. So by taking this parameter, the displacement current, the Ampere circuital law is modified by Maxwell. So the Ampere circuital law is given by, what is that? The line integral, closed line integral V bar dot dl is equal to mu naught IC. What is IC? Conduction current in a material, in a conductor, and mu naught epsilon naught d phi e by dt. So this epsilon naught d phi e by dt is called displacement current. So mu naught IC plus mu naught into ID. So outside the capacitor, the displacement current is 0, and between the capacitor plates, the conduction current is 0 and displacement current is not equal to 0. Here IC is not equal to 0, ID is 0. But in general, we can have both the conduction current as well as the displacement current. So this is a modified Ampere circuital law. It is also called Ampere Maxwell's law, right? So by taking all this into consideration, Maxwell have given 4 equations using all what we have in electrostatics and magnetostatics. He grouped and kept the name as Maxwell equations that we are writing now. Maxwell equations. So now we can say that the change in electric flux with the time, gives rise to displacement current, and because of this displacement current there is a magnetic field. So magnetic field can be produced by flowing current through it, or magnetic field can also be produced if there is a change in electric flux with the time, then also we can have magnetic field. So the Maxwell equations. Here the closed surface integral E bar dot dA is equals to the charge enclosed 1 by epsilon naught times the charge enclosed. So this is nothing but Gauss law in electrostatics. So closed surface integral B dot dA is equals to 0. So nothing but the magnetic lines are always closed loops. They start from one point and again they end at the same point. So the magnetic flux through a closed surface is always 0. So this is nothing but Gauss law in magnetism. So this is the first, second and third, nothing but the Faraday's law. We said that electric field, the relation between electric field and potential is E is equals to V by R. So the potential drop, we can write it as E into R. So taking that, the closed line integral E dot dl is equals to minus d phi b by dt. So this is called the Faraday's law. So this is nothing but the EMF. And fourth one, now the modified Ampere circuital law is closed line integral B dot dl is equal to, earlier we said it is a mu naught I, now it is IC, plus mu naught epsilon naught d phi E by dt. What is this d phi E by dt? Nothing but the displacement current between the plates of a capacitor. So this is Ampere-Maxwell law. So by modifying this Ampere-Circuital law, all the 4 equations got the symmetry. So if the charge at rest, around there is electric field. If the charge flowing with some velocity, there is a magnetic field. The change in magnetic flux with the time gives rise to electric field. The change in electric flux with the time gives rise to magnetic field. So by modifying this law, the laws of electricity and magnetism, they are now symmetric, because nature loves symmetry. So by modifying this, the last 2 equations, so see here, the change in magnetic flux with the time gives rise to electric field, and change in electric flux with the time gives rise to magnetic field. So these are, one equation is counterpart to the other. So we can say that the change in magnetic flux with the time, nothing but the Faraday's law, gives rise to, the change in magnetic flux with time gives rise to the electric field, and similarly the change in electric flux with the time gives rise to magnetic field. So these are the symmetric. By changing this, we got the symmetry in the electricity and magnetism laws. So here we can also say that the time dependence, these are the time dependent electric and magnetic fields produce other fields. Right, magnetic flux is nothing but magnetic field into area. Electric flux is nothing but electric field into area. So we can say that the time dependence of a magnetic field creates electric field, and time dependence of electric field creates magnetic field. So this is the significance of the what we got is the symmetric in equations. All the 4 equations, we got the symmetry, and one equation is counterpart to the other. So the Maxwell combined the laws of electricity and the laws of magnetism. So he gave all these equations as Maxwell's equation. So the most importance of this Maxwell's equations is he predicted the existence of electromagnetic wave. He predicted the existence of electromagnetic wave. And using these Maxwell equations, he proved that this electromagnetic wave has a velocity nothing but the speed of light. These electromagnetic waves are traveling with the speed of light. So he concluded that the light is electromagnetic wave. Light is an electromagnetic wave. So from this he concluded the wave nature of light. Light have both particle as well as wave nature. So theoretically, by considering all this into account, he made a set of 4 equations, and from which he predicted the existence of electromagnetic waves. And using theoretical study, he also calculated the speed of EM wave, which is nothing but the velocity, speed of light. So he concluded that this EM wave, light is in the form of a electromagnetic wave. Light is in the form of electromagnetic wave. So from his theory, he proved that the light is exhibiting wave nature. So that is the importance or significance of these Maxwell's equations. Right, now we are going to see how an electromagnetic wave can be generated. What are the sources for generating electromagnetic wave? That we are going to see now. Source of electromagnetic wave, EM wave, I am writing it as electromagnetic wave. So in the last chapter we have seen LC oscillations, where we have a circuit consisting of a capacitor connected to an inductor. So initially this capacitor is charged to QM charge, so it's completely charged. So once the circuit is connected, we observe that the charge starts flowing. There is a current. Because of the current flowing in an inductor, there will be a initially it is electrical energy. Now once the current is flowing, it is converted into magnetic energy. Right, we said that the energy is oscillating from electrical to magnetic energy. In a capacitor it stores in the form of electrical, and in the inductor it is stored in the form of magnetic. So the energy is oscillating from electrical to magnetic and magnetic to electrical. So by this way we can able to create an electromagnetic wave. So using the LC circuit, we can able to generate an electromagnetic wave. So this is one method of generating an EM wave having an LC circuit. Right. Now the other method is, so Maxwell proved an important result that accelerated charges radiate EM waves. So from his theory, he proved accelerated charges. If the charges are accelerated, they radiate electromagnetic wave. So this is a theoretical thing. So we are considering, yes, the accelerated charges may generate electromagnetic wave, because we don't have the proof for this, Maxwell's theory proof. Directly we are assuming this and we start understanding it. Right. So the best example for the accelerated charges is a charge which is oscillating. Accelerated charge. As we know, if you consider a simple pendulum, if it is oscillating, making to and fro motion, so here at the extreme position the velocity is zero, and acceleration is maximum. And at the center the velocity is maximum and acceleration is zero. So we can say that this pendulum is also accelerating. It's also example for the accelerated body. So in the same way, to have an example for accelerated charges, let us consider an oscillating charge. As oscillating charge means that the charge is moving from maximum to zero, and again it is the charge magnitude of the charge is oscillating from zero to maximum. The same way, when it is charged, the charge is maximum. When it is discharged, the charge will become zero. So the capacitor plates, on the plates of the capacitor, the magnitude of the charge is oscillating, or it is varying sinusoidally with the time. It is changing sinusoidally with the time. So this is the best example for the oscillating charge. So if you have an oscillating charge, there will be an oscillating magnetic field. Because of this, there is because the charge is not constant. If the charge is constant, we can say that E is equals to Q by 4 pi epsilon naught R square. But here the Q is oscillating, means that the magnitude is changing with the time. So what we can have is oscillating electric field. And if there is an oscillating electric field, what we said, change in electric field with the time gives rise to magnetic field, produces oscillating magnetic field. So again, oscillating magnetic field creates electric field. So these electric and magnetic fields are regenerating and they are propagating in the space. Right. So we can say that the oscillating charge gives rise to oscillating electric field, and oscillating electric field gives rise to oscillating magnetic field. So via this we can get an EM wave. So what is the frequency of this EM wave? The frequency of EM wave is nothing but with what the frequency the charge is oscillating, the same is the frequency of this electromagnetic wave. Suppose in the LC oscillations we said the charge is equals to Qm cos omega naught in t, So in the same way, if the charge is oscillating with this natural frequency, the electromagnetic wave generated by this is also oscillating with the same frequency omega naught. Right. Then what about the energy of the electromagnetic wave? the energy of the electromagnetic wave is nothing but at the expense of the oscillating charge. Oscillating charge, because of the energy, it is oscillating. So some of the energy the electromagnetic wave takes. So the energy of the EM wave is nothing but the energy lost by the oscillating charge. Right. So this is about the source, how we can able to generate an EM wave. So all these are the theoretical model, given by Maxwell. So the experimental evidence for the existence of electromagnetic waves is given by Hertz. Hertz in the year 1887. In the year 1887. So he gave the experimental evidence for the existence of electromagnetic wave. He successfully generated an EM wave and observed this EM wave. So here in this Hertz experiment, what he did is he had some two metallic spheres, and these two metallic spheres are connected to a, the two ends of these metallic spheres are connected to a high tension coil, and this high tension coil is connected to a high voltage battery with a key. So this is a Hertz experiment having two metallic spheres, and these metallic spheres are connected to a high tension coil. So these are connected, and this high tension coil, nothing but an inductor, is connected to a high voltage battery via the key. So see here, this is a high tension coil having more number of turns. So once the key is in contact, so what happens is the current shoots from 0 to maximum. So because of the current, as we know, EMF is given by minus L into di by dt. If there is a change in current with time, there is an EMF. So now because of the key is in contact, so as it is high voltage, so due to which there will be an EMF developed, and this EMF will be appeared here. So it's a very high voltage between these metal spheres, and this high voltage is very large, so that it can able to ionize the atoms and molecule present here. The atoms and molecules present here. So it can able to ionize because the voltage is very high. So if this voltage is very high, there will be a dielectric strength. The material will have some dielectric strength. If it is more than that, there will be breaking of atoms and molecule. So there will be charges developed between these two metallic spheres. So that is nothing but if we have a charge, there is electric field, there is a magnetic field. So now the electromagnetic wave is generated here. So this part of the circuit, we call it as transmitter. It is called transmitter. And very close to this circuit, you also have two metallic spheres with a ring shape. So the same electromagnetic field. So what we said is EMF, high EMF is generated, and this high EMF voltage is very large, more than the dielectric strength, so that the particles and the atoms present between the spheres, they get ionized. So charges are developed, and these charges, because of which there is a electromagnetic wave, nothing but the energy. So the same energy or the spark, whatever the spark present in this metal sphere, the same is observed between these two metal spheres. It shows that the EM wave generated in the transmitter circuit, it traveled to the detector. This circuit we call it as receiver, or you can also call it as a detector circuit. So Hertz is successfully able to produce electromagnetic waves and also detect them. So this is one of the success of Hertz, and which also give the experimental proof for this Maxwell's theory. So later on, our Indian scientist J.C. Bose also done this experiment, similar experiment, and he can able to produce electromagnetic waves in lower frequency range, right? So at the same time, another scientist, Marconi, who invented radio. He is continuously following the Hertzberg, and he was succeeded in generating electromagnetic waves, and he transmitted the electromagnetic waves to few kilometers. So that is one of the basic foundation for the communication systems using electromagnetic waves, right? So this is about the history of the electromagnetic waves, how they were generated, how they are evidence, experimental evidence is given by Hertz and Marconi. That is about the electromagnetic waves, source of electromagnetic wave, how they were detected, right? Now we are going to see the nature of electromagnetic wave, nothing but different electromagnetic wave properties we are going to see now. So the electromagnetic waves, where we have time varying electric and time varying magnetic fields. These two electric and magnetic fields are mutually perpendicular to each other, and they are also perpendicular to the wave propagation. So we can say that these electromagnetic waves are transverse waves. So the nature of EM waves, nature of electromagnetic wave. So the wave equation for the electric field and the magnetic field we are writing. Let us say the electric field is changing along x direction with Ex equals to E naught sine kz minus omega t, where the wave is propagated along z direction, and the magnetic field is changing along y direction having the amplitude d naught, and the wave is propagating along kz minus omega t. So the wave looks like this. If this is a propagation and if this is x-axis, so this is the electric vector which is varying with the time, and if you consider this is y-axis, so here so this is a magnetic vector, so this is a magnetic vector and this is the electric vector. So these are mutually perpendicular to the wave propagation, right? So here, by substituting these equations, the electric and magnetic field equations in the Maxwell equations, they determine some important parameters. And as we all know, K is called, what is K? It's nothing but wave vector, and which is indicating the direction of wave propagation, and it is K is equals to 2 pi by lambda. And also they calculated omega, angular frequency omega is equal to c into k, where c is nothing but the speed of light, which is equals to 1 by square root of mu naught epsilon naught. Mu naught epsilon naught. Mu naught is the permittivity of free space, permeability of free space, and epsilon naught is permittivity of free space. And you know that omega is nothing but 2 pi mu is equal to c 2 pi by lambda. So 2 pi get cancelled. So we have an equation, mu is equals to c by lambda, or c is equals to mu lambda. So these equations we derived in the first chapter. Omega equals to ck and c equals to mu by k. And also they observed that E naught by B naught is equals to c. So these are the amplitudes of the electric field, and similarly E by B is also equal to c. What is E by B? These are time varying electric and magnetic fields, whereas these are the amplitudes of the electric and magnetic fields. So these are some of the important formulas, right? And one of the important property of EM wave is this electromagnetic wave does not require any medium for their propagation. No matter is required. No matter is required for EM wave propagation. So this is one of the important property if you compare with the other waves. Suppose if you have a sound waves. So as we are talking and if the room is evacuated, so whatever the sound wave I am generating, the other person cannot able to listen because there is no medium if the room is completely evacuated. But in general, if there is a medium, nothing but air molecules, so whatever I am talking, so because of this energy, so the air molecules are compressed somewhere and they are rarefied, so there will be a pressure changes, nothing but a compressions and rarefaction. So it means that whatever the sound energy I am emitting, because of that energy, the material medium is responding. So because of this, we have compressions and rarefaction. So the air molecules are moving, vibrating. Whereas suppose if you consider a stone thrown in a water, so there the disturbance is generated at one point, but that disturbance, nothing but energy, due to which the water molecules move up and down, making simple harmonic motion. So the water molecule is responding to the energy. But here, these electromagnetic waves does not require any material medium for its propagation. Earlier, people thought that the entire universe is filled with ether and the electromagnetic waves are travel in this ether medium. Later on, Michelson-Morley experiment proved there is no medium like ether, so which is ruled out, right? So it does not require any material medium for its propagation. Suppose if the light is or the EM wave is entering into a medium, if the EM wave is traveling in a medium, so in that case, what is the speed of electromagnetic wave? It is given by 1 by square root of mu epsilon naught. In free space, this is the speed of electromagnetic wave. If the electromagnetic wave is traveling in a medium, so in that case, the speed of EM wave is given by 1 by square root of mu epsilon. What is mu? Nothing but the permeability of this medium. So which is mu naught times of mu r. And epsilon is the permittivity of free space. Epsilon is the permittivity of free space. I can write this as epsilon naught times the dielectric constant. So the speed of EM wave depends on the electric and magnetic properties of the medium. So this is about the speed. So using this speed of light, nothing but 3 into 10 power 8. So many experiments proved the value of C as 3 into 10 power 8 speed of light, right? So Hertz experiments which proved the evidence, experimental evidence for the EM waves, and he also said that these electromagnetic waves undergoes the phenomena of diffraction, polarization, refraction, all these phenomena these electromagnetic waves exhibit, right? Now we said it has a speed, it has the amplitudes, everything. Now what about the energy? Will the electromagnetic waves carries energy and momentum like other waves? Yes, these electromagnetic waves also carry energy. We said that this electromagnetic wave have both the electric field and magnetic fields. So in that case, the energy density, electrical energy density is given by half epsilon naught E square. And similarly, the magnetic energy density, this we calculated in the last chapters, B square by 2 mu naught. So these are the electrical and magnetic energy densities. These are the electrical and magnetic energy densities. And here this E and B are constant values. But in case of electromagnetic waves, the electric field, magnetic fields are changing with the time. They are functions of time. So in that case, instead of having these formulas, we have to take the electric field, magnetic field as RMS values. We said in the AC currents, if the current and voltage, if they are changing with the time, suppose if the voltage is changing with the time, so in that case, we consider the RMS voltage. What is RMS voltage? The RMS voltage is nothing but the peak value divided by root 2. So in the same way, here also the electric and magnetic fields, they are changing with the time. So instead of considering this E and B, we have to consider the RMS values of electric and magnetic field. Now the average energy density. So by considering these two, the average energy density, the total average energy density considering electric and magnetic. So electromagnetic wave contains both, right? So this can be written as U average is equals to 1 by 2 epsilon naught. In place of E, we are writing RMS value plus B RMS squared by 2 mu naught. And what is ERMS? ERMS is nothing but the peak value by root 2, and BRMS is also the peak value by root 2. So now the average energy density, total average energy density will become E naught by 2. So this will become 1 by 4 epsilon naught E naught square plus 1 by 4 B naught square by mu naught. So these are the total average energy density of an electromagnetic wave. So now we are going to show that. Let us consider the first term. What is this first term? This is the electrical energy density. Electrical energy density. So let us say this electrical energy density is 1 by 4 epsilon naught E naught square. And we have the formula E naught by B naught equals to C. So I can write E naught as B naught into C. So 1 by 4 epsilon naught. This is nothing but B naught square into C. We have E naught by B naught is equals to C. Right. So 1 by 4 B naught square C square. Epsilon naught B naught square into C square. What is C here? C is equals to 1 by square root of mu naught epsilon naught. So this will become 1 by mu naught epsilon naught get cancelled. So this is 1 by 4 B naught square by mu naught. It shows that the average electrical energy density and average magnetic energy density, they are equal. They are equal. So if we have 10 joules of energy for an electromagnetic wave, 5 joules is for electrical energy density and 5 is for magnetic. They are equal. So I can write this average energy density as 2 times of UE or 2 times of UD. So they are equally, the total energy of EM wave is equally shared in between electric and magnetic waves. Magnetic energy densities both are shared, right? So this is about the energy. So how we can prove this electromagnetic wave carries energy. So let us consider is oscillating charge, a charge, let us say a charge which is kept in the direction of the propagation of EM wave. So because of this, if the charge initially it is rest, and when it is placed on the way of electromagnetic wave, if this charge is set in motion, it means that there is a transfer of energy from electromagnetic wave to the charged particle takes place, due to which now the charge is moving with some velocity. So the transfer, it's initially the electromagnetic wave carries energy, and that energy is shared to this charged particle Q. So due to which it is now moving with a certain velocity. So it carries energy, and this energy is given by the total average energy density is this much, right? So also it carries momentum. So if it carries momentum, and we know that Newton's second law, F equal to dP by dt. So with this momentum, it can able to exert force. The electromagnetic wave can exert force on the body on which it is incidenting. So that is called radiation pressure. Because of the momentum, the electromagnetic wave exert a force called radiation pressure. It is called radiation pressure. And the momentum can also be written as, the electromagnetic wave momentum can also be written as U by C. U is the total energy by the speed of the electromagnetic wave gives rise to the momentum of electromagnetic wave. Right. So after this, we also consider what is the intensity of electromagnetic wave, that we will consider. Intensity of electromagnetic wave. These are the formulas which are required in order to solve problems. Intensity. So the intensity of electromagnetic wave is defined as I is equals to the total energy crossing per second per unit area, where this area of cross section is perpendicular to the wave propagation. If the wave is propagating, the cross section should be normal to the propagation direction. So that is why the total energy per unit area per unit time. So here till now what we consider is this small u indicates the energy density, but here we consider it is total energy. So we know that what is energy density? Energy density is nothing but energy per unit volume, right? So here in all everywhere, let us consider these are the small u. These are the small u values. Small u. Capital U indicates the total energy. Small u indicates the energy density. So energy per unit volume. So nothing but u by total u by v. So small u is equals to capital U by v. So what is u now? It is small u into v. So the intensity can be written as average energy density into, because why you are considering average? As the electric and magnetic fields changing with time. So and volume by T into A. So volume can be written as U average into, the volume is area into, let us say, distance, area into length. Here we are considering it as C into T. This gives rise to with the speed of electromagnetic wave into T, right? This is L, area into length actually. Length is in a time T with a speed C, the distance travelled is L is equals to C times of T. So T cancel, A is cancelled. So the intensity is given by U average into C. Average energy density into C, right? So now we already said that the U average energy density is 2 times of UE or 2 times of UB. So intensity can be written as, the intensity I is equals to 1 by 4 into epsilon naught E naught square. This is the 2 times of U, 2 times of U, E. So I is equals to 2 times of U electrical into C, right? This is the average is equal to 2 times of electrical energy density. So this is 2 into 1 by 4 epsilon naught square E naught square into speed of light, right? So this can also be written as 1 by 2 epsilon naught square E naught square. Or we can write in terms of RMS values, I can write this as into C. So epsilon naught square ERMS square into C, because ERMS is nothing but maximum value by root 2, right? So this is the intensity formula in terms of RMS. Similarly, the intensity in terms of magnetic field terms, we can write the same as BRMS square into C by mu naught square. So this is the expression for the intensity term. Here it is just epsilon naught. UE is equals to 1 by 4 epsilon naught E naught square. So this is here also, it is epsilon naught, and this is mu naught. So BRMS square into C by mu naught, right? This is about the intensity. Now if you have a electromagnetic source, EM source, through which an EM wave is propagated. So what is the intensity at a point R from the center of the source? What is the electromagnetic wave is generated here? So this is a source. So at a distance of R units, what is the intensity? The intensity formula is power of the source divided by 4 pi R square. Power of the source. So this is the power of the source divided by 4 pi R square. So E is given by P by 4 pi R square. So these are some of the formulas which are required for solving the problem. So intensity is nothing but the total energy per unit area per unit time. Here the electrical energy and magnetic energy is equal. So we can say that the total intensity of electromagnetic wave as I by 2. This is because of the electrical, and I by 2, this is because of the magnetic. So 2 times of average energy density is nothing but 1 by 4 epsilon naught E naught square, or this is 1 by 2 epsilon naught E naught square into C, or this is in terms of ERMS we have written it as epsilon naught ERMS square into C, and in terms of the magnetic fields we can write it as RMS square into C by mu naught. So this is about the some of the important properties of the electromagnetic waves. Thank you.
Hmm.